The nice part about Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 after the Season 1 Reloaded update last week was that we had a higher frequency in communication and in updates and overall fixes to the game, but that doesn't mean that we're done. There's still plenty of things that can be fixed, plenty of things that I'm sure you've noticed that need fixing and worked on. So today, I want to take some time and run down some of the changes to expect as of the next update, when that will be, and the future of both Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. So as we go along, drop your thoughts below. Are you hoping for any one change in particular? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. And finally, this video is brought to you in part by my friends at Apex Gaming PCs, but more on them in a bit. For now, let's take a look at the changes you can expect in the next updates for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. Now, we can break these down into some global things, some game-specific things between Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. So let's start out with the Modern Warfare 2, both specific and global changes here with this. So firstly, one of the big things is that stability fixes are going to continue. This is something that is a progressive rollout in terms of releasing updates, releasing fixes, but then also monitoring to see if anything else is changing that could impact that stability. On their Trello board, they do have listed fixes that went out that drastically decreased the number of crashes across all platforms. And honestly, myself grinding out the game the last couple of days in some sort of marathon sessions, as I've talked about on the channel before. Previously, that'd be something where I'd crash in those marathon sessions at least once an hour, sometimes once every half hour, but honestly, as of these updates going out, I haven't crashed a whole ton. Now again, that's not to say that my experience is the be-all end-all. If you do experience crashing, I'm sure that you have. That stuff will persist. It is not 100% flawless at this point, but it is something they've put out fixes where you may have actually noticed less crashing. So until they get it down to 100% success rate, which may still take some time, they're still going to be releasing more stability fixes. So with the next update, we can expect some stuff like that. They also detailed a game suspension issue that is being worked on. This is more so referring to tabbing between apps on consoles and situations like that, not necessarily you actually getting suspended in game. So more so when you make like the game app a secondary process or something like that. You go to the dashboard, check out a few things, or you swap between game applications, but it's gonna be something that will affect matchmaking to the point where players won't be able to find a match, which if that happens, it's recommended that players restart the app to fix the issue. But again, being of course that's inconvenient, that's not how it's supposed to be, a fix is logged and in progress for that as well. As for some gameplay related stuff, there was and still is an issue where changing attachments mid-kill cam can affect your frame rate, dropping it down to sub 10 FPS at points. Seen plenty of videos of it, it absolutely looks miserable. So if you have experienced this yourself, just know that this has been cataloged and already has a tag that a fix is ready for a future update. So it's not just an investigating thing or that they're working on a fix. A fix is already there, it just has not been deployed just yet. It's waiting to go out with that next update. So whether or not that's just a playlist update that they can push out at any point, we'll have to wait and see, but it will be in one of those next updates. Now, another thing gameplay related is camo unlocks. Infinity Ward has stated that they are aware and have a fix incoming for players who are unable to progress their weapon camos despite having enough of that category of weapon camos unlocked. So for example, let's say the platinum challenges, you have those unlocked for rifles, but when you go to work on it with the additional M13B or Chimera, those challenges at the platinum level, for whatever reason, they won't track or even allow you to track their first ones. So there's an issue right now that's preventing challenges of camos from being unlocked despite the criteria of that total number of weapons being achieved for your platinum and polyatomic challenges, which this now makes me curious about Orion because, for example, in theory, and when this was the case a few weeks ago, if you had Orion camo but did it with DLC weapons over some of the base weapons, you had Orion camo on all guns regardless, even the ones you did not get polyatomic, because the only criteria for Orion was 51 polyatomic weapons. So that means that even in the future, you'd be able to unlock Orion right out of the gate the moment you unlock a new DLC weapon. Now, however, you do not. You have that still locked up. Myself just recently completing the Orion grind, and my friends who have had it already, the weapons they did not get polyatomic, previously having Orion, that's now not the case for them. So I'm wondering if that's a bug or if they changed that fundamentally to where it's now going to require that. But regardless, camo issues and tracking will be fixed out. Audio issues have been cataloged and have fixes inbound. Occlusion was temporarily disabled as this time of recording this. Not entirely sure when this video will go up. In multiplayer, though, it's very possible this can transition over into Warzone as well, but audio occlusion being the way that audio will travel through surfaces, acting as a dampening effect, making sure that you know where footsteps and other audio is coming from, the surfaces that the audio in-game will bounce off of, and how many of them there are. So one of the things with occlusion when it goes wrong is if you hear footsteps like right next to you, that player could be 3, 4, 5 stories above you. That was a really big issue within like Warzone and Verdansk back whenever that started. You wouldn't know if somebody was on the ground with you in downtown or the very top of a skyscraper. So that sort of thing is happening again and will be fixed out as the next update. And also, additionally for audio stuff, there's an issue where players' names who are talking in-game will stay on your screen. I'm sure that you've seen this one. It is super annoying, but thankfully, we'll see a fix rolled out for that in the next update. The current solution is, unfortunately, as with the game suspension issue, just to simply restart your application, but that's not convenient at all, so fingers crossed that, again, this fix comes sooner rather than later, but that's something that'll be added in as well. Now, one thing that's already been fixed out, it's stated, but is important to note, is that weapon tuning with saved blueprints, those custom blueprints you can make, has actually been applied. Whenever the feature was rolled out with the Season 1 Reloaded update, it was not available to save those custom aspects of the tuning, but everything else was. So that's now been adjusted, should work properly. On the Warzone side of things, though, we don't have too many things that are specific just to Warzone. A lot of this is covered in the global things that were covered through Modern Warfare 2 and such, but one thing that I'm hopeful to start this list off with is combat records. If you guys remember, Season 1 Reloaded was supposed to bring combat records to Warzone 2, but it had since been delayed. Announced the night before the update itself as coming after the Season 1 Reloaded update with no time frame given. It's something that I'm hopeful we see this with the next update. For me, it's kind of been inconsequential. I don't pay too much attention to combat records, but the big thing to me was the principle of it. Thankfully, it seems like changes and additions have been made relatively quicker than they were being added in beforehand, but the fact that we kept having this delay year over year on combat records between games is confusing, frustrating, and more when we think about stuff that was previously normal and regular items in COD games for well over a decade before the last couple. So while there's no guarantee of it, fingers crossed for this one. If not the next update itself, I would imagine Season 2 as a launch date for that. Now, Warzone specific stuff, one thing that has been mentioned, it is still being cataloged and does have a fix inbound, is things like High Alert specifically being named as buggy. It works sometimes, others it doesn't. Although admittedly, I will say after the Season 1 Reloaded update, I have noticed a few perks working more within Warzone 2, which is definitely nice. Obviously, you want those to work if you take a perk package. Fingers crossed we get all of those ironed out, High Alert in particular as well. But before we move on to the next topic of discussion here in regards to when we can see these updates and some things relating to the future of quality of life changes and Warzone 2 changes, I want to let you know about my friends over at Apex Gaming PCs. They're a performance-based build company that with code Espresso can save you a few $100s off your next build right now. While the holiday deals have come and gone at this point, you still can save quite a bit if you're looking to upgrade any hardware, get something for yourself in terms of a new system, and link below are a line of 3 baseline PCs they've built out for the community, all of which of course can be fully customized. So if you want to change one particular aspect or the entire thing, you can, but using code Espresso can save you a few $100s off your entire order. Check them out if you're at all interested, but for now, back to the regularly scheduled content. So before we wrap everything up, I want to talk quickly about the future of Warzone 2, but also the timing of when this next update could be. The one thing that is definitely nice to see after the Season 1 Reloaded update is, of course, as we mentioned, a lot more communication and a lot more frequent updates. As of the last week or so, we had like 4 updates in particular, so we've seen increases to the pacing at which things are fixed out, which is definitely nice. But with this now being the holiday season, when can we expect these changes and more to be coming in the next update? While it's possible we will see a few things in the next week after Christmas here and before the new year, I don't know that I would expect it. The safe bet is that we'll see a lot of these things continue to be fixed out in the new year. A lot of, if not most of the in-office staff has since gone home for the holidays, and the day-to-day operations will return to full swing in the new year. So safe bet in terms of timing, I'd say sometime around January 3rd, January 5th, perhaps at that point, but know that it will probably be coming within the new year. Some smaller stuff might be fixed out as of this upcoming week between Christmas and New Year's, but again, the bigger stuff, wouldn't bet on it. But as for the future of Warzone 2 here, again, noticeably absent in regards to specific and listed changes, there wasn't a whole ton on the Warzone 2 Trello board, but one thing that was mentioned on the Trello board was the fixes a new quality of life tab of things that were already introduced. Now, we've touched on it, but I do firmly believe now, even if it will never be officially stated, that Raven very well may be in the driver's seat for Warzone 2, whether it be due to data-driven things or just simply having too much on their hands for Infinity Ward to handle everything. We don't quite know. I mean, one thing that has been making the rounds is the Steam player charts, where the player count on Steam dropped 50% in 2 weeks over Warzone 2. And I know Steam is not a great indicator whatsoever. It's a subsection of player bases. I mean, it's a portion of the PC player base, which is a portion of the overall player base, but 50% decrease anywhere is alarming. So perhaps it was due to that, or maybe it's just, again, something that's overwhelming nature, too much on their hands where Infinity Ward could be spread too thin, trying to manage and balance creating content for multiplayer, Spec Ops and raids, DMZ, Warzone Warzone Battle Royale, all that kind of stuff. So maybe Raven's stepping in to take some of that pressure off of them. We don't quite know what the circumstances will be, but again, as we've talked about, given how many changes have been made in such frequent succession here, after Infinity Ward was so dead set on their vision from the very beginning, it does seem like somebody else is in charge, does it not? So if that's the case, I would imagine also in the new year, perhaps between Season 1 and Season 2, since we don't have a whole ton of changes or content additions upcoming in that entire month of January before we end up leading into the Season 2 launch on February 1st, I would not be surprised if we end up seeing a ton of quality of life changes, adjust Warzone 2 to not quite revert it back to Warzone 1, but make it something where they take feedback into account. They make changes that hopefully increase the quality of life of the game and the longevity of the game as well. So would not be surprised if we see that kind of stuff, especially if Raven is in the driver's seat. They took communication pretty seriously this past year, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see additional quality of life changes and some drastic ones at that here for Warzone 2 come in the new year, around when this update comes out for the rest of these changes. But for now, that's where we're at here at this. That's the changes you can expect as the next update or updates for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. So that's what we're gonna call it. Love to get your thoughts and feedback down below. What are you guys looking forward to the most here in regards to any specific change, anything that you're hoping to see changed? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. For now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.